Happy Saturday afternoon, Westminster Shore residents, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Waterside Chats. Next to me, you can see our first guest for today's episode, Marshall Oakes. You knew him prior as our bus driver, but now he is our faithful temperature taker, front desk employee, and tram driver. Thank you, Marshall, for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so the way we do this is we start a little bit more business and formal and then get a little bit more fun with the questions. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. 5 people penned it to me and asked this question. They wanted to know from you, what is your go-to productivity trick?
As crazy as it sounds, my productivity trick is I like to start my day off with a little bit of a cup of coffee, a little bit of caffeine, and I've got a certain music jam I like to listen to. I live in Seminole, Clearwater, so my drive is a little longer than most, and I use that time to get myself pumped up. You know, especially in these current times, I know that the residents need a little bit more bubbliness. I know that they're going to need something more than a stone face, and I know that that's what's expected of me. So I get my music going, I get myself charged up, so that way when I get here, I'm as jovially and lively as I know that they need. A lot of them are not going places, and the ones that do, their mobility is limited. So I'm trying to be a shining light in the day that might make the difference. They come downstairs, they come to check their mail, and rather than being the person that's just sitting there, you know, stone faced, I'm like, hey, how's it going? A little jazz hands. And
so he's your ray of sunshine, everybody.
Absolutely.
Look at that ray of sunshine. All right, next question. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Oh, I'm definitely a night owl. Takes everything I have and my stability to be here at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, definitely. But that cup of coffee and that music should
Absolutely.
You
But that's why if you ask any of the residents, they'll tell you the 11 o'clock ones that go to the Mahaffey and outdoor trips, they will tell you surprisingly lively at 11 o'clock at night. And that's when I thrive better.
Wonderful. Good to know. All right. What was your first job?
My first job, I was a gopher in a junkyard. I operated essentially what kind of golf carts we have now with the larger flatbeds. And my job was to get various things that could be easily removed for customers that were coming in.
Okay.
I did that when I was, I did it when I was 14, but the book said I was 18.
Oh boy. I didn't hear that. All right.
Statutes of limitations have run out on that. You're fine.
Okay. All right. So I know you and your wife love to travel.
Absolutely.
So what is a trip that has changed you and why?
That's a loaded question. But the hardest one that I would have to say is my wife and I went to Cuba when the embargo was lifted for the short amount of time. And my wife and I, instead of going to Veradero Beach, which is what's really popular there, we went and stayed in Old Havana. And it was an extremely eye-opening experience. It's not the 1950s there anymore, and you can tell. And it was what my wife and I wanted to see. We wanted to see it in its truest form. You want to see a city the way it was meant to be seen, not as travel guides try to sell you what it should be. It was a little disparaging, but it was probably one of the truest trips I've ever been on.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing. All right. What would we most likely find you doing on the weekends?
Well, unfortunately right now, what you'll find me doing on weekends is very different than normal. Right now, my wife and I are limited to working on our house and doing various things with my son and my stepson that live with us. If we weren't under the current umbrella right now, on weekends, my wife and I like to travel to places around Florida with my grandson. We have a fascination with taking goofy pictures wherever we can.
Okay, that's fun.
I actually have a bunch of pictures where I've taken a picture with a giant lobster outside of a restaurant. We took a picture with a bronze kimono dragon. And we like, because to me, a picture means more if you have context behind it. Not if you just stand there next to each other and just smile for a picture, you won't remember it. But if you intentionally make it awkward, you'll remember why you did.
We should share those with the residents.
Absolutely.
You know you're going to be asked.
Absolutely. I have no qualms.
Everybody ask about the lobster picture.
I am not ashamed of any pictures that I have in my phone.
Ask about the lobster picture.
All right.
All right. So get ready.
Not a problem.
All right. Are you a dog person, a cat person, or neither?
I am a dog person, but I like all animals in general. We have a small zoo at my house. We have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and that's small right now. We've had more than that. No matter how bad my day can be, my animals will make it better.
100%.
You know, when you come home, no matter how bad of a day you've had, there's just some unconditional love about a dog that will come up and rest his head on your lap. Like he knew that's what you needed.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. The residents already heard about my 2 cats that I went on and on about. I agree.
Well, if the residents check, I was nice enough to download a picture for Randy, and the 2 dogs I have should be on her bulletin board.
As well as my 2 cats. Check it out, everybody. Look for our animals.
Yep.
All right. Final question of the day. Do you use emojis when you text?
I only use emojis with certain people under certain contexts.
What's your favorite emoji?
My favorite emoji is I have I want to say it's a purple heart, and my wife sent it to me one time as a joke, and we bounced it back and forth so many times that it's almost like a hidden message that if somebody were to text me and say something inappropriate, but it didn't have the heart, I would know it probably wasn't my wife, because she would add the heart as a little thinking of you.
Okay.
Like a little, almost like I don't want to say a fail-safe, but one of those things like over time you develop a shorthand with somebody and you say something that they knew what it meant, and everyone else in the room goes, I didn't get it.
Okay.
And that's what I would say that heart is. As for anyone else, my granddaughters have an emoji problem, and my own daughter has an emoji problem. I don't even know how we would talk if you eliminated emoji from a text board, because then they would be forced to use words.
Yes. Aye. Troubling time.
Unfortunately, it's trying to keep up with how the world changes. I remember when emojis weren't a thing. Now it's the thing.
Absolutely. It's the only way to go.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Hang tight to see who's next. And thank you, Marshall, for hanging out with me for a little bit, answering my wonderful questions. And our next employee interview for this week's episode of Waterside Chats is Mary Ellen, our receptionist at the front desk. Hi, Mary Ellen.
Hi, Esther.
Thanks for coming in today to interview with me.
I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's get down to business.
Okay.
All right. How do you prefer to start your day?
I prefer to start my day with a cup of coffee, a half a bagel with cream cheese,
Okay.
and I read the news on my phone.
What kind of cream cheese?
Has to be plain.
Plain.
It has to be plain.
I love the strawberry.
No.
Plain cream.
Plain cream cheese.
Okay.
Same thing for 20 years.
Stop
Never had a
it.
day without a bagel and cream cheese.
Stop it.
Same thing.
That's amazing.
Talk about a rut.
All right, so that's how you start your day. How do you
Yes.
end your day?
I usually end my day by watching Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen,
Okay.
because I have to catch up with pop culture.
Mhm.
And then I have a glass of water, and then I go to bed.
Okay.
And halfway through the night, I say, darn, why did I have that glass of water?
Every single night.
Every night.
Happens to me as well. All right, so what led you to this career?
This is my second or third or fourth career.
Mm-hmm.
And what led me to this career is I really always wanted to be a secretary.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was growing up, the choice was nurse or do you want to be a teacher? So my mother was a nurse, so I picked teacher.
Okay.
And then within the teaching, I started with English.
Mm-hmm.
And after probably 30 or 40 times through Romeo and Juliet, I thought, no. And so I went back and got a degree in business education.
Okay.
And then that got a little boring, and so then I went back and got certified in Microsoft Systems Engineering, and I did networking in the school.
Oh, wow.
And this is my fourth, which would be receptioning.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So you have like all the best backgrounds for the
Exactly.
receptionist.
Exactly.
No wonder she's amazing down there.
I would hope so.
All right, so let's get a little bit more fun.
Okay.
What advice would you give to your teenage self?
I would tell my teenage self not to listen, but to do what you want to do, and you don't have to be a teacher or a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have gone, and there were a couple people in my sorority that were in the business school,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I should have been.
Mm-hmm. I remember my mom telling me the exact same thing. She was told to be a nurse or a teacher, and she was a kindergarten teacher until she retired. So
That's right. It's a whole generation of
mm-hmm.
now nurses or teachers. Unfortunately, the nurses have done better than the teachers financially,
Mm-hmm.
but
All of them. All right. So what season is your favorite?
fall. I love fall. I love the leaves. I love the coolness when it comes after summer.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much fall here, but in the fall I always go to Oregon to experience the fall.
Ooh.
And the trees are beautiful, and the leaves are the color that you remember. And
How amazing.
yeah.
Oh, I love fall when the leaves are turning color. And
I always collect the leaves and put them in a paper bag, and they're dead by the time I get home.
All right. What's the first concert you've ever been to?
My first concert was in college, and it was the Beach Boys. It was very nice.
Classic.
It was a classic, yes.
Wonderful.
Concerts weren't the same then. I mean, you went into an auditorium and you sat nicely in a chair.
Sounds like a wild time.
Yes, it was.
All right, so the final question I asked Marshall when he was here was what his favorite emoji was. What is your favorite emoji?
I have no favorite emojis.
Okay.
I hate emojis. I think they're just a substitute for people writing words to you. There aren't a substitute for words. It's kind of like the computer's not a substitute for a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the Christmas letter that people do and send out to 1 million people. So that's right up with my list of pet peeves. So if you're going to send me a text, please do not send me an emoji. I can tell from your words how you're feeling.
Look at that, everybody.
I can't help it.
That's how we end it. All right, well, thank you, Mary Ellen, for coming by and answering these fun questions.
Thank you, Ashley.
All right, hang tight to see who's next. And our next guest for Waterside Chats is Kevin Hintz, our Dining Services Director. Hi, Kevin.
Hey Ashley, hey everyone.
Thanks for coming in today to answer these questions for the residents.
Thank you for having me in my dining room.
All right. It is a beautiful dining room.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, first question.
Yes,
What's one thing that surprised you with working at Westminster Shores?
when I first started, like when I took the job and I was coming over, I was nervous that the residents were going to be tough to deal with. That was my biggest fear. And then coming from restaurants to having a varied audience all the time, I was nervous that if we had tough residents or residents that were hard to get along with, I'd be stuck with them all the time. Not like a regular restaurant where people come in every now and then.
Sure.
But the residents here, you all have been way, way nicer than I ever thought was possible. So
Definitely have a great group of residents here that go with the flow and have been very understanding of things, especially now
yeah,
with everything going on.
yeah, especially now. I was actually right before we walked in, stopped by 3 different residents saying how much they loved everything, how well everything's going. And thank you everyone for your patience through this whole process. I know in the beginning we had some hiccups, but I think it's going well overall.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, what's one thing most people don't know about you?
Well, one thing that I wish I would have kept up with a little bit, but one thing that I did a lot when I was young, I shot archery, and I actually did that professionally when I was young.
Really?
I did, yeah. I was on an archery team, a professional archery team, and we went all around the Midwest to different archery tournaments and stuff. It was a lot of fun.
How fun!
Yeah.
How fun!
Yeah.
I know the residents went and did archery with Lee a couple months ago and loved it. So
I know.
they have
I saw that and I was like, man, I wish I could go. I wish I could get my bow out there.
All right. So what would we find you doing on the weekend?
Right now, not a whole lot. Probably like a lot of people here. Not much going on, unfortunately. But on a normal basis, normal time frame, concerts. Lots of concerts. My daughter and I started going to a lot of them, and now we've got my son going, and so all my wife and I and my son and daughter are all going to concerts a lot. And then my son and I do airsoft, which is like paintball, but they're smaller BBs.
And softer?
Not at all.
Oh.
They're hard BBs.
The name is tricky.
Yes, the name is tricky. They're harder than paintballs. They don't break. They just hit you and they hurt. But it's fun. It's something fun to do with my son, and we go out and it's like a military simulation kind of thing. He has a blast with it.
I wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I'm just the old guy that's like the huge target that everyone shoots. So.
Well, it's nice you spend a lot of time with family doing family things on the weekends.
Yeah, that's the main focus every weekend is just family time. We don't plan anything else. Just trips and concerts and airsoft and things like that. So,
wonderful.
Yeah.
Sounds nice. All right, some fun questions.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sport to watch, and what team do you root for?
Well, I don't think it'll come as too much of a surprise to a lot of people. Football is my number one, and the Packers are my team. I'm a shareholder of the Packers, actually, too. I get to vote on the board of directors every year. It's kind of
No way.
It's not that big of a deal. I bought it back before, or right after they won their Super Bowl 31.
Okay.
They did a stock sale, and that's the whole team it's owned by the shareholders. There's no owner, owned by the shareholders. We get to vote on the board of directors every year.
Oh, that's cool.
I get to vote by proxy. I get a ballot from them every year, and yeah, it's really cool. So, grew up in Wisconsin, so you cannot not be a Packer fan.
Absolutely.
And once you leave Wisconsin, you're not allowed to switch your allegiance either. So, Packers for life. And I have a Packer dad too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I lived in Chicago for 10 years, but was not a Bears fan. I was a Packers fan.
Were you really?
I was.
Nice.
I was one of the rare ones. The Bears. Sorry to the Bear fans, but
I'm not sorry to them. Well, I'm sorry for how bad they are, but that's neither here nor there.
I was there when Cutler was there.
Oh, thanks.
All right, and the final question. We zoomed through these.
Yeah, we did.
What's the one totally irrational fear that you have?
Spiders. I mean, anything, like when I first moved down here, because in Wisconsin there's not spiders like there are here, nothing near. But when I first moved down here, I was even afraid of the little tiny crab spiders that are all over the property here. They're all over everywhere. Those I've gotten used to now, but any kind of other spider, no, I don't deal with that. My wife, who's a Florida native, has to, if we ever get one in the house, which we rarely do, but if we ever do, I'm like, your turn, go get it out, do whatever, make it go away.
At least one of you is the spider killer.
Yes.
I don't kill spiders.
You don't have to move. She usually takes them outside.
Yeah. Oh yes, 100%.
Right.
Save the bugs.
Right.
All right, well thank you for spending some time with me answering these fun questions for the residents.
Absolutely.
I know they are enjoying these questions, so I'm sure you'll get some follow-up questions to your answers.
Good deal. I look forward to it. Look forward to seeing everyone soon too.
All right, thank you. And our final employee interview for this Saturday afternoon is Cheyanne Goodell, our dining services supervisor. Hi Cheyanne.
Hi.
Thanks for coming and answering these questions for the residents.
Oh, of course.
All right, let's get down to business. Who has influenced you most when it comes to how you approach your work?
Definitely my parents. They were both managers and still are. And I could tell they always do good work because employees love them and always come back to work for them. So definitely my parents are my huge influencers.
That's a good thing when people want to keep working for
Yes.
people and all of that. All right, how do you prefer to start your day?
And definitely with some Chick-fil-A. I'm probably there like 6 out of 7 days a week because I close on Sundays.
Did you see they sell the Chick-fil-A sauce now at Publix?
I do. I like Polynesian. It's my favorite.
Okay.
Get the order of chicken minis, 4-count with a large sweet tea. My fave.
Chick-fil-A is always good.
Yes.
All right. If you could write a book about your life, what would the title be and why?
My title would be The Messy Life of a Concert Chick-fil-A Wonderless Addict, because I'm addicted to all 3 of those things. I love to travel. I go to Chick-fil-A quite a lot, and I've been to over 100 of concerts, so.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And my life's a mess at the same time, so I had to throw that part in there.
So our interview before was Kevin, and he said how much he loves concerts, so that's a fun thing that you guys have in common,
Yes.
all the concerts. What's
Yes.
your favorite concert?
Oh, I don't know, it's a tough one. Taylor Swift is definitely up there,
Okay.
and Ed Sheeran, those are my 2 favorites,
That'd be
because I
good.
love both of them.
Wonderful.
Yes.
What's a trip that changed you and why?
When I went on my first trip, I was still working here, and I went to Australia and New Zealand.
Oh,
It was my first time out of the country by myself, and like to actually out of the country. I mean, I've been to Canada and like Bahamas, but you know, those are very still close by. And it was my first trip alone with no one I knew, and it was just a great experience, and it really just made my travel life even more. So it changed me for the good.
wow.
Yeah.
That'd be an amazing
I held a
trip.
koala bear and everything. It was so fun.
Oh, this is sweet. Any kangaroos?
Yes, yes, I did. Yes, it was a great trip. I enjoyed it. It's my favorite trip I've ever been on.
I can imagine. All right, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So every night before I go to sleep, usually I always put on Law and Order SVU because they used to like a show me and my mom would watch. We still do together.
Yes.
So when I was little, I was like, oh yeah, I want to be Olivia Benson and fight crimes about rape, and so just still to this day addicted with Law and Order SVU.
Yeah.
But I just love it. Just she's a powerful woman, and I always wanted to be like that powerful, strong woman. So
Wonderful. All right, what would we most likely find you doing on the weekends?
so definitely a concert usually. Always have concerts planned ahead. If not, maybe painting, shopping, just doing some fun random things around. Yeah. I like to paint, even though I can't paint. They're horrible, but I do like to do it. And I keep them and I hang around the house. My parents get annoyed, but it's okay. It's fun.
This weekend I'm painting.
Ooh.
I'm not a painter by any means, but I'm certainly gonna try.
Oh yes, I try, and I tell myself each time I'm gonna get better. It just gets worse.
It's hard. Randy's a good painter. She
She
did
is.
some painting over the quarantine or the stay-at-home order.
That's
So
cool. Yeah, I can follow the YouTube videos, but it never comes out how it should.
it's the
I blame the brushes, not myself.
There you go. All right, so we found out that you're a huge concert lover.
Yes.
So what's the first concert you ever went to?
I think I had to be like 8, and it was definitely with Hannah Montana and the Jonas Brothers.
Okay.
So, because you know, I was addicted to the best of both worlds. So I was jamming out when I was like 8. I still have pictures, so it started my concert addiction there.
It sounds like a memorable experience.
Yes.
All right, and for the final question, what fictional place would you most like to visit?
Well, I didn't start reading the books till like last year, so it was very recent. And I didn't know how good they were, but I read the Harry Potter books.
Okay.
And I read all of them, and I found out my house, and I don't know why, but I just feel like they have cool because you have wands and magic, and so I would definitely want to go to Hogwarts so I can do some magic.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That was Adrian's answer, that she would want to go visit Hogwarts.
Yes. Just
So,
'cause it seems so cool, and I can have a cool wand and do some magic. Like, that sounds like the life. I'm jealous.
They have the town, they have the thing
Town
at
Universal.
Universal. I went and got obsessed with the butterbeer. It's not a real beer, but it's butterscotch, like some drink, but it's delicious.
It is. It is. I definitely just want to learn some magic in my life.
That would be cool.
It would be.
All right, well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And I will see you all next Saturday for our next week's episode of Waterside Chats.